I am O.G. Share, the messenger, and I have an African story for you, set in a place far from here, but near to there. You see, a long time ago, there was a poor farmer called Tanaka who lived in a dusty village called Ire, in a dusty land which was also called Ire. About Ire. Nothing grew there. Life was hard and cruel. His family was starving. They didn't have food for fuel. However, it hadn't always been like that. It all came about with some wicked, hateful acts. Not too long ago, Ire was a beautiful green land of forest meadows, threaded by sweet rivers. The people lived in gentle flow with nature and were wise to only use what the land delivered. Others were jealous of their wealth, coming with war and destruction, using sorcery to capture, enslave, and destroy them, bringing terrible magic to annihilate their civilization, an onslaught of sorcerous devastation. They cast a mighty spell, the head sorcerer chuckling gleefully. His face leered as he frowned and grinned evilly. Whilst his blistered burnt hand pointed, he proclaimed Ire's doom, laughing as he said, "Behold the dark fume." At last he cast the infernal spell, a terrible poison cloud of dark rolling fog, shriveled every plant and on contact caused strong warriors to drop, poisoned the rivers and dried up the land, killed all the plants and trees. Only in the sacred grove did they still stand. Since that time, all of Ire felt despair, hungry and wretched with no food anywhere. All despaired, that is, except Tanaka's daughter, Imani. Everyone loved her, and she loved everybody. She believed that she could end the curse and bring back the fertile land of her father's birth. Her faith was so strong that that is what her name meant. So she went on a quest and swore not to relent until she broke the curse and reversed Ire's doom by forever getting rid of the poisonous dirt fume. She walked for many miles. She smelled water and dug, and she did not thirst, for finding water was her skill and luck. At one point, she caught the aroma of something else, a smoky, spicy hint of secret wealth. She stopped right there and scraped the ground. She was amazed by what she then found. A seed shaped like a coffee bean, glowing like gold. She looked at it in amazement and clasped it in a loving hold. Shockingly, Imani vanished without a trace and found herself in a completely new place. A beautiful tree-lined glade leading to a waterfall, hiding a cave which seemed to Imani to call her to come and venture within. So she walked under the cooling waterfall and stepped in to a crystal-covered cabin, shining and light, with a raised plinth on which a figure materialized dressed in white. It was an ebony dark old man with a conical hat. He looked at Imani's hand and said, "I would like to see that." "Yes, old father," replied Imani respectfully. The golden seed flew to the hand of the man immediately. The elder levitated above the crystal plinth, holding the seed closely as if looking within. "The seed," he said, "young woman, is the salvation of Ire. If you plant it in your sacred grove, it will send the dark fume away. However, you will be hunted by my twin brother, who will send monsters for you. And if you give in to fear, they'll destroy you. It's true." Imani was frightened. She felt so much fear. Being hunted by someone as powerful as a levitating man was something she really didn't want to hear. "However," said the older man, "I have protection for you, though. Whenever you might give in to fear, say this magic word, Ashe, 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 yo." Imani thanked the elder man, feeling some relief, as she knew that without some protection, she surely would have come to grief. She set her sights on her journey, committed to take a stand. The elder man began to dematerialize, and the seed flew back to Imani's hand. He pointed, and she set off through a tunnel as directed by him. She felt strong in mind as she hummed, "Ase, ase, ase, oh," keeping the words alive within. A short while later, as she neared the tunnel's end, she heard a slithering roaring sound that caused her knees to bend, made her heart beat in fright as it drew closer and past her. Imani increased speed and ran to avoid disaster. She emerged into the sunlight and turned back to find a huge slug-like creature rearing up behind, skin crackling with blue electricity, giant teeth and claws roaring with bestial ferocity. It opened its cavernous mouth, pointed at the seed and bellowed, "Mine!" Imani shook her head, protecting the seed but terror in her mind. The beast breathed in and belched out a sizzling electric fire that would have crisped Imani and been her funeral pyre. But Imani remembered a promise she had clutched within her palm, along with a magic word that would keep her from harm. So she held the seed up high, and to escape the monster's woe, she shouted out with all her might, "Ashe, Ashe, Ashe, oh!" Suddenly, she was no longer near the cave, but in a whirlpool of water being sucked under, still feeling brave. She found herself in a forest where the air seemed translucent and thick, plus little bubbles escaped from her mouth whenever she breathed out quick. Imani understood that she was underwater breathing. There was no denying the bubbles, and yet she still had trouble believing. She saw a strange dark woman far away with floating green hair. She thought about moving closer, and suddenly she was there. When Imani saw the woman's legs, she was truly amazed, because her legs were a tail, and she was a mermaid. There were many like her, both male and female, and each of the dark-skinned people had a different coloured tail. She found she could swim like a fish, and talk and play, so she spent happy moments with them on that magical day. Then in her hand she felt the warmth of the seed and remembered the urgency of Ire's need. She said her goodbyes, she knew it was time to go. So she clutched the golden seed, closed her eyes and cried, "Ashe, Ashe, Ashe, oh." Instantly, she found herself standing on a green verdant land. She knew it was Ire before the dirt fume, but she just didn't understand. Then up in the sky, she saw a dark, roiling cloud, filled with terrible, toothy, imp-like creatures, an evil, leering crowd. Her heart missed a beat. Her knees turned to mush. It was a dirt fume, and the imps dived down in a rush, with claws to tear her, with teeth to rip her to shreds, to feast on her fear and laugh at her dread. Imani cried out she could not take the pain, as they bit her and clawed her again and again. She began to give in to a deep, dark despair. She couldn't fight them off. She knew she'd meet her end there. Then she remembered the golden seed, and her courage did grow as she roared the magic word, "Ashe, Ashe, Ashe, oh." Immediately, she was back in Ire, back in the dust bowl. When she felt her body, it was hale and whole. She heard a voice calling out her name. It was her father, Tanaka. He was so glad to see her again. They hugged, and Imani showed her father what was in her hand, saying, "This golden seed is the salvation of this land. We'll go to the sacred grove and plant it and see that it will end the dirt fume magically." So Tanaka called the elders, and in a circle they stood at the center of Ire in their sacred wood. Imani clutched the seed and then bowing down, tenderly pushed it into the ground. She raised her eyes upwards and with a mighty bellow uttered the magic word, "Ashe, Ashe, Ashe, oh." A deep silence resounded, then a hiss. A dark, oily excrescence began to lift out of the ground and into the air, and within its dark cloud a figure hovered there, resembling the elder in the cave, a lank, cadaverous shadow. It pointed its transparent finger at Imani, looking insubstantial and hollow. Then in an empty voice, with a wind-like moan, it was swept away by a clean breeze, and Imani heard it say, "No!" Manifestly, the soil turned black and rich. Shoots sprang forth, All around they could hear a hum as the land was being restored. The people of Ire glanced all about. Everything was back to plenty, and they rejoiced with a shout. And so, till this day, or so the elders say, Imani was responsible for the salvation of Ire. So there it is, the story of Tanaka's daughter Imani, Ire's greatest hero. Proof that love will always conquer hate, and that faith is a transformative force. I, Ojisha, speak. The end.